What is going on, guys? Welcome to the Wednesday night live stream, first one of the year. Happy New Year. Adam, Robert, how are you guys doing?
Doing great.
Excellent. How's your guys' New Year's?
Pretty low key this
Relaxed.
year, not much to
We're
do.
trying to take turns. Adam, you first.
Yeah, we didn't do much. There's no really going out this year, so stayed at home, played some video games. We really didn't do much.
Yeah, that's fair. How about you, Robert?
Yeah, pretty uneventful, man. I mean, I'm old and got kids now. Gone are the days of drinking and staying out till 2 a.m. It's more like run out in my robe at 12 a.m., light a mortar, run back inside.
Sounds about right.
But it was great, hang out with the kids. Yeah, that was that. Oh, this cracked me up was the ball drop in New York City.
I didn't watch it this year. Was it good?
No, it was
happened?
nobody there.
Oh, yeah.
So it's weird. Like, normally it's people come out of every crevice, and it's like now it's just a bunch of those gates and stuff like that, and then people like dancing 7 feet apart. It's interesting.
I'm envisioning like Home Alone style, like a bunch of those cardboard cutouts just moving around in front of it.
God, that'd be great. I just got my kids for that. They love it.
Yeah.
I try to get them to watch these like cool retro 90s type movies, and some they take too. Oh, and the little one, she loves dinosaurs. Into Jurassic Park. She like screams for Jurassic World and Jurassic Park when we have to watch a show that's like Dad likes and she likes. It's always Jurassic Park.
Hey, that's all right.
That works out for me, man. It's better than freaking Blippi and Blue's Clues.
Hey, that's pretty good. No,
Yeah.
It's good she actually like shows that you like too.
Yeah.
So, Hernando, thank you for the super chat. Today we're thinking it'd be kind of fun to talk about kind of your reef resolutions, right? Because everyone has their New Year's resolutions, and all of us are working with a reef tank, so it'd be kind of fun to dig into reef resolutions and kind of what you guys have in mind. What do you want to do better for your tank? What are things you've been slacking on, you need to get on, and kind of go down that rabbit hole. It'd be kind of a fun one to mix it up today.
Yeah,
Interesting.
I know for me at least, one of my big ones is actually get in the habit of testing regularly, because I'm a bit of a slacker on that one. I know stuff can swing out of the way, so it's trying to get back into that weekly.
And everybody else.
Yeah, if not, at least once a month, like the hardcore, test everything, or automate it more. One of the two, whatever comes first.
Yeah, I think it's, man, I do as I say, not as I do, because I used to test elk like once a week, and ever since my current system has become kind of stable, I've slacked on it, and I can't even tell you what my elk is right now. Hopefully it's somewhere close to 9, but yeah, I don't know.
I find it's a little bit of a double-edged sword, but since I have stuff like the Elkatronic that's an auto tester, I kind of slack on testing everything else less. But at least I know the elk's stable, right? But the rest of it, you're like, yeah, it's probably fine.
How often do you double check the Alcatronic?
Not very often. Maybe every month or two, maybe. My goal was kind of like once a month, just do sit down for an hour and just do the whole slew of tasks, but that doesn't happen. It's quite as frequently as I'd like. So that's one of my New Year's resolutions to, once a month, just test everything and make sure it's still online. How are you, Robert? What's on your list?
Build a fish tank. Finish fish tank. I think finish fish tank is a better way to say it. So yeah, I'm just fighting with this, man. I gotta get it done. Got everything there. I need to do one more order, of course, from BRS. The same thing I say every time. I still haven't gotten the RO tubing. That's kind of a big one because I can't make water without that. So I got to get that done. Went and got my auxiliary PVC though, so I can mock it up with white PVC. Got the PVC cutter. Too scared to cut the PVC though, so I just need to do it, man. I got to sit down and dedicate an afternoon or a day. I mean, when you have kids, it's so tough to dedicate a whole entire day to not them. So I battle with that, man. I battle with that. So we'll get there though. I mean, it's I love to do it, so that's a good thing. It's not like I hate it. So it's just a matter of finding time, man. Holidays, it was family and kids, so I was pretty busy. I mean, I had some time off, so I thought, shoot, for sure I'd get somewhere. But no, those days were filled with kids and shopping and
That's fair.
Yep.
Is the tank set up now finally? Like, is it
Yeah,
plumbed and
no,
everything?
I've had it set. Like I've had the tank built and everything. It's just a matter of getting water in it, really, at this point. Well, I got to plumb it, but yeah, like I got the sump. I have the platinum sump with trigger. I got that all set up and like learned how it functioned and everything. I messed around with the roller. I've got a few different pumps to try. I'm excited about like the CJ, their Wi-Fi return pump.
XTC.
Yeah, the STC. There you go. The STC pump. I'm excited to kind of see what that's all about and have like an app-controlled return pump. It's kind of
Nice.
new. I've worked with the Vectra before, so it kind of, but it's not an app. I worked with it back when it was EcoSmart Live. So
Sure.
having this like app-controlled return pump is going to be an interesting new experience. I've got for power heads, I've got Tunzi nano streams. So I just like those pumps. I've used those a ton. I think they'll fit nicely in the back of this tank too because they're black. They'll blend in. They give me an adjustable like output nozzle, so I can. The way they're going to set is it's like a trapezoid overflow. So they're going to be setting on the overflow kind of like pointed towards the sides, if you will, like on the two like angled parts. So what I can do is I can turn those nozzles and have them point forward, and they'll be on opposite sides. So now I've got 3 clean viewing panes. I still have the pumps pointing in the right direction. And I've done it before, not on this particular tank, but I've done it on like a cube like that with the 2 on the back wall, and it works out real nice if you can.
Yes.
You just have to be able to control them and sync them up nice. So
Remind me, it's Innovative Marine, right?
yeah, Innovative Marine, the 50-gallon INT, so the overflows inside.
Yep.
I've cleaned up the area around it, so that was a big hurdle too. Is like it's in the basement, and so I'm sure many of you with basements know it's like a catch-all. So the last thing I want to do is like go down there and like film myself in this like catch-all of stuff. So I've been picking that up, getting it worked out. But yeah, that's all done. So now it's a matter. It's really like on me at this point. Like no more excuses. So I just have to dedicate the time and get it put together. I do need salt mix. That's been a kind of a challenge because like I'm sure everybody knows like there's salt mix shortages everywhere.
What are you going with?
I'll use Tropic Marin Classic. So
Okay.
Yeah,
Why the Classic?
Just because I don't like dealing with the alkalinity issue. I mean, I like having it a little bit higher. I like to keep it at 10. So
Got it.
Fair enough.
I don't like it low. And I'm doing auto water changes. So the concept here is to have that auto water change sort of replenish everything and maintain it versus calcium reactor dosing like Classic I would rely upon. And I want to keep, there'll be more soft corals in this tank as opposed to LPS and SPS. There'll be LPS in there, but that'll probably be the only thing that's stony in there. I'm going to try to stay away from SPS corals as much as I can because I want some macro in there. I want some pretty macro. I want some gorgonians.
You talked about all the MPS a while back. Are you going to try and pack them in here?
So that's one. It would be fun. I'll try it.
You should.
I've kept
you totally should.
Coral. Like I've kept the sun coral before. I really like the black one, so I want to give that a try. And since we're going to do, I've got to build an aquascape. I'm going to, bash up a bunch of rock and put it all together that way. And so my idea here is I want to build a spot to hold a mangrove, like build these rocks to accommodate these particular things. And so with NPS, I was thinking like some crazy overhang to where I could upside down mount some stuff or like sideways mount it. And then and envisioned where the flow or undertow might come through and be able to bring food to it. So yeah, I've got all these unique little plans, but I'm definitely building or tailoring this tank to be specific for that sort of softy lagoonal type situation, as opposed to just like a classic mixed reef or SPS reef. Like I probably would have chosen any other time prior.
Nice. So is it more of a lagoon style tank, or which tank did you go with?
It's
again?
like a cube. Yeah, I mean, I think they call it a lagoon.
Yep.
I think they call it like 50 lagoon, or maybe just hobbies call it lagoon. But yeah, it's more like a cube.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah, it's basically like a shorter 60
Right.
cube.
Yeah,
a
it's
stubby
like
cube.
22, 22, 24, I think, something like that.
Okay. So pretty much a cube. You should put a big mangrove in the middle for fun. I think that'd be cool.
I think, okay, so when I designed it originally with all these crazy like ideas I had it sort of in the back left corner. So my idea, like I have 2 primes and then I'm going to put some reef brights next to them. I talked to Tulio and he's got a nice little couple different ways that you can mount reef brights with primes. And so he wants me to try it out and kind of figure out the best way and what looks the best. So I'm going to do that. And my original thought was be able to like offset the primes. So like have one can go up higher if I need to as this mangrove grows. But with the reef brights in there, I think what I'm gonna have to do is I'll just kind of elevate the entire thing because it's one big fixture as opposed to two.
Mm-hmm.
But I still want it in the back left corner, so I can have like sort of an open space there on the the front right and everything to be able to have coral and plenty of light and then access to it and stuff.
Yeah.
But we'll see, man. You know how this goes. Like that's just what's in my brain right now. What happens in this tank is anybody's ball game, I guess.
So I heard what's slowing you down is RO tubing. If you send me your address, I will acquire you some.
Oh God, don't.
So there's
do
no more excuses
no,
to make this happen.
I need like 100 feet of it. It's a job.
That's fine.
So I got to run. So I built the RO. I got the filters. The washer and dryer hookup is like 50, 60 feet on the other side of the basement. So I got to get up in the in the part between my house and the basement, whatever they call that, the floor, and run it. There's access through there. Like I think I can get it because it's not just like a solid ceiling in there. Like there's actually places I can get up into there. So I'll be able to run it. But yeah, there's insulation in there. Oh, I think Ryan just did this. I remember him complaining about getting insulation.
Yeah, he posted something about that on his Facebook page. Like,
yeah, he was
BRS TV guy.
Stuffing tubing or something. It was on a water change tubing.
Yep.
Yep.
So
it was RO tubing. Yeah.
Every time I go, I'm like, I'm gonna do this today. And I start looking. I get up in there. I get the ladder out. Just like, I don't want to get all itchy. And like,
just wear long sleeves, and you'll be okay.
I think I'm gonna do the trick where you like. I'll fish it with like a string and a washer, and then use the vacuum to suck the string up, and you can tie your tubing to it and pull it through the other way, just like you pull wire or something like that. Yeah. So I hope that works.
Yeah, if you're going through the wall, at least in my attic, because I just ran the fresh air line for my skimmer to my big scrubber up there.
Giant
scrubber. Oh yeah, the baby's good. So I had to figure out where the heck that wall was. I'm like looking at windows and little points and trying to like measure from it and figure out where it was. But when he did, you can see the top little stud in the wall. So then I figured out by measuring approximately where it was and just drilled straight down. And I used like a big chunk of like an acrylic tube or something, and I put inside of the hoses to keep it straight, and I kind of used that to fish it down the wall, which worked pretty good. And from the bottom, I was able to pull it out.
Yeah, I guess so. A washer and a string trick is better when it's vertical because you have gravity working for you to drop it. I wonder. Yep. I guess horizontally, I just got to get the string across. I don't know. The tubing are probably easier just to shove it through because it's it doesn't exactly matter where it fishes through. It just has to go all the way across. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. I'll definitely share the experience for sure.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Just bribe your daughter to follow you around with the camera and just do.
Yeah, you guys would get one big shaky mess if that was the case, or a bunch of pictures of herself. My kids love it. I'm like, hey, take a picture of me, and then I get it back, and it's 500 pictures of their forehead and their chin.
Perfect.
And they get all happy because they thought they tricked dad. And just like,
keeps it entertaining. So there'll be some entertaining videos from Robert coming out on his new build, by the sounds of it.
Yes. We're gonna get it done. So that's my New Year's resolution, and I'm gonna kick ass at that one. I just conquered probably one of the biggest New Year's resolutions ever, which I just told you guys about. I quit smoking. This is like freaking awesome. Yes, I'm super excited about that. So I think I'm 6 weeks in now. It's been Adam, do you remember? I think it was the beginning of December, at end of November, sometime like that. I'm like 6 weeks in.
Yeah, I feel like it's been longer than that, but
congrats, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, no, it's good, man. It feels real good. It's been a long time. So yeah, I conquered that. So if I can get this fish tank built and start producing some rad videos, I think I'll be a happy man through 2021.
Awesome, that'll be good. Oh yeah, Adam, anything on your list?
What's that?
Yeah. So, man, I've got a few things. One, I guess if we're just going on new builds, my goal is to get my current tank. I don't necessarily want to tear it down, but it needs to move, and I'm going to take that opportunity to maybe upgrade some things. So I've learned a lot about carpentry over the last year, kind of remodeling our house. So I'm going to try my hand at building something more than just a 2x4 stand this time.
Nice.
I got some more tools laying around, and YouTube has been super helpful with learning new tricks and things like that. So we're going to try to build like a nice plywood stand, something that looks a little bit more furniture grade than a 2x4 stand. Yeah,
Nice.
so that's gonna happen. But before that happens, I've got to put new floors in my office where the tank's going. Because one thing that I've learned over the last couple of years is that carpet under a tank is a pain in the butt. So
Just
we're
don't
gonna do
spill.
some. Yeah, seriously. We're gonna do some like vinyl floors in my office first, and hopefully get that done in the first half of the year.
Nice.
So we can build the new tank, and I've got one of those SDC CJ pumps lying around too that I need to install, but I think I'll wait until the new build to do that.
Nice.
I'm gonna go UV sterilizer this
Yep.
time
Nice.
because I've battled dinos on and off and just done with it.
I am very on the fence with UV. Adam, I'll let you be the guinea pig and try it first. I mean, I've used them. I put them on ponds. I put them on freshwater tanks.
Mhm.
And I ran them for like, temporarily, like 30-day cycle on a saltwater tank. But I'm very curious about cycling one with UV on.
So I think I'm gonna leave it off for the cycle because so at BRS we're doing some testing in our what we call the lab.
Yeah.
With some UV tanks that are being cycled, and it seems, at least early on, that a tank cycled with UV on messes with the bacteria and maybe doesn't allow the good bacteria to grow as quickly as we would think. So the 4 tanks that do have UV, 2 at a higher flow rate, 2 at a slower flow rate, and then 2 tanks that don't have UV as kind of a control. The 2 control tanks with no UV look so much better.
Really?
And I don't know what the story is there fully, but I think I'll leave the UV off while it cycles, and I'll run 2 return pumps, both going to the display, but one just straight up return, and then the second one will be dedicated to the UV, but then also going up to the display as a second return nozzle. So I'll have a little bit more control over the UV flow rate.
Nice. That's awesome.
But at least, like Robert said, that's the thought that's going around in my brain right now, but who knows if that'll actually happen.
Yeah.
So true. It's not that hard to do. I basically did something very similar on my frag tank beside me, just a smaller UV, but I tilted the front of the Vectra sideways and made that directly into the input and plumbed it straight up, and then have it to 1. And it's running at like 3%. It's super low because it's completely overkill. But
I think I'll probably end up going with one of the aqua UV sterilizers, just because they're a little bit more compact than like the Pentair version.
Yeah, those are huge.
Yeah, like probably I have to look at the sizes again for the display, but probably like a 25 watt.
Yeah. What size is your tank going to be?
So I've got a 75 currently, and this one will also be a 75. I just don't want to go bigger. I don't have the time for a bigger tank. So
I was gonna say, I mean, that 25 watts should be more than enough for.
Yep. Oh yeah, you'll be good.
Yeah.
Go
ahead.
I have a 57 watt one on my 200 gallon tank. So I mean, yeah, you should be good to go with that one.
Yeah. So we've got the 57 on the Red Sea Reef for 750 at the BRS office, and that thing kicks butt.
Yeah.
Nice.
So Adam, let me ask you, man. So not on during the cycle. What is drawing you to using a UV on this new tank more than anything? Just the fact that it'll save
dinos.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'll probably it's hard to say what speed I'll run it at all the time. I'll probably run it at a slower flow rate just to get rid of any parasites long term. But it's nice to have it on the tank where I can just crank up the flow rate if I need to.
Yeah.
And man, because dinos are the worst with so many people using dry rock these days. It just seems like it's such an issue. Whereas 10, 20 years ago, I don't think I heard of dinos the first 5 years.
Flagellates was something that is I learned about through like science, like biology class, but it was something that was like found in natural waterways, and why you shouldn't drink water from like a creek.
Yeah.
It's like there's some dinoflagellate. It's Giardia, I think is what it is. Which I think is a dinoflagellate. But that was my history with dinoflagellates, and then come full circle. Now here we are, and they're pesky in our aquariums. But from what I understand, it's like this broad, gnarly category of
Yeah, they're like 5 different common types. So some of them won't have any effect or UV won't have any effect on them. So that part will be kind of pointless. But a lot of the common types are affected by UV, and I'm just hoping to prevent that long term because once you have dinos, like UV is really one of the only ways to get rid of a lot of the common strains. And if you don't already have one installed, installing one properly is kind of a pain in the butt after the fact.
That Advantage one's pretty nice off of UV makes. I've used that a lot and recommended it a lot. The hang-on one that goes right on the tank, because you can. I mean, it definitely avoids some of the pain in the butt if you're already established and everything.
Yep, for sure.
You can get a second pump. You can just hang it right on the edge of the tank. There's no cut and plumbing or doing any of that. Just to deal with the way it looks. But they only make them up to 15 watts. So like if you've got, that's the bummer thing. And I really wish we could do something. Like I've always thought about some way to create a some sort of return U-tube you could, attach to the existing Aqua UVs to where you could make it hang on. So you're not having to do all this. You know what I mean?
I'd love to see one that has a built-in pump.
All in one?
Like drop-in type thing?
Well, so like a hang-on, like hang-on power filter, you can find some of them that are really, really small UV hang-on units, but I'd love to see a large one that was hang-on with its own pump, and you could just put on when you need it.
So I talked to... Oh, go ahead, Devin.
No, I was going to say the 57 watt, before I put on the water box, I had dinos in my lagoon tank. I literally just put a little dinky C-shape pump on it and just like dropped it, just hung it on the side of my tank, and basically it was its own little all-in-one in display, and within a week, I mean, it was looking pretty darn good.
Yeah, they make... So I talked to Innovative Marine. This is years ago. We were talking about, okay, so what's the next innovative gadget with Innovative Marine? And I was telling them, like, man, if you guys can make like an AIO UV sterilizer, that would be killer. And then they made it. So they have this like, it's almost like a disposable UV because you kind of have to replace the whole thing when it's all said and done.
Yeah, there's actually one on this tank.
There you go. And it's just gravity fed, right, Adam? If I'm not mistaken, it just comes.
Yeah, so it's like a filter sock. It's almost like this piece of PVC that the bulb slides into, and it's got the same brackets as a filter sock, so it just kind of hangs on the side, and the water just overflows in and goes down the PVC, and the bulb is down the center.
So what if we have this like some sort of drain attachment, but I guess the flow rate's an issue there, but still it would be nice to just sort of a passive UV,
It would be, if you had an all-in-one tank, I think it'd be fairly easy because you, like the Innovative Marine one that just drops in, you could literally buy a bulb and a replacement tube for it and just like plunk it in your overflow. Like, don't look at it, obviously you want some kind of thing because it's terrible for your eyes. But if you had something in there, you could make your own little drop-in one. I don't think it'd be too hard to do. I don't know if it's worth buying the parts, but
super easy to DIY. I just like to see something that's available for the average reefer to just buy and like, here you go, hang it on and plug it in, and it's already set to the right flow rate.
So you said you're onto something. So like, your Innovative Marine one sets inside the filter sock holder. So, a lot of subs, multi-socks with the drip plate over top. So what if we had one for the second sock, spot, so you could drop it into the sock spot and then have some sort of gate or baffle between there where it's like, okay, I want, high flow. I just pull the baffle out and now it's dripping in between both socks equally. I want slow flow, boom, force most of the water through to the first sock and then just allow whatever you want through the second one,
Okay.
Yeah, it's the trouble is that the UV is so flow dependent.
Yeah.
It'd be so hard to regulate from
you couldn't
one to the other.
Precisely.
Okay.
Just exactly.
Okay. 4-inch filter sock hole. You got your little drop-in unit with this little tube in there, right? And you could just have like a little spiral around it, so it spirals it, so you get lots of dwell time, right? And you could just have a little opening that slides, so it opens and closes how big the little hole is on top to let water in. So you can do something simple like that to control it. That would work.
So like back pressure to see it.
Yeah, and just have have the top slide and it opens or closes some part of a circle, and that's how much water it lets spiral in, and just have it spiral inside to increase contact time.
Replaceable inserts or something.
Yeah, or like an aperture type hole on top too.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's got to be some way to do it, but anyway, my resolution is to have my new tank with the UV properly installed so that it's on all the time. And if I don't, if I decide not to use it, I'll just turn the bulb off and keep water running through it. No big deal.
I just leave mine on 24/7. Preventative. No harm can come from it. It's all good, right?
Yeah, Devin, I don't think I ever asked you. You were using ozone before.
Yep.
And now you're on UV alone. tell me and everybody else, like, what kind of differences? What are you seeing? Like, what is good? What's better clarity? You know,
They're pretty similar in clarity. Like either one gives you very clear water. So I don't think there's a huge difference that way.
yeah.
Cleaning the glass, I don't think I've noticed much of a difference either way on that one. So that's kind of a wash. Same with clarity. Like honestly, the two of those I would say are pretty similar. Now I'm not necessarily running mine for like parasites or anything. I don't even know what my flow rate is. I just guessed, and then one day I should actually measure it. But it's keeping the water crystal clear, which was like my main goal.
Right.
And, you know, and I haven't really had any of those uses on that tank, but I don't have dinos. I mean, that's a plus.
Yeah.
So overall, it's working well. I have contemplated putting both on just for fun. The main reason I took the ozone off is when I moved to the soda lime scrubber on the intake. Like, granted, it's like 15 feet away, so it's not really an issue. But just as like preventative, I didn't know if it would have any negative interactions with it, and that was my main reason for taking it off. So I've dabbled putting them both on and see if it gets like ultra super duper crystal clear amazing, but we'll see. But it's a toss up. Like honestly, either one work. I mean, UV is probably safer for most people. Ozone, you can use too much, so you got to make sure less is more. I always say with that.
Smell the too much, and then
Oh.
I think UV is more comprehensive.
It's more forgiving. One benefit of ozone is your skimmate was not as nasty. When I was running ozone, because I'm using the skimmer as the ozone reactor, so the skimming was never that bad. But now with just the UV on there, you're like, whew, every time you open it, you get that nastiness, or I get in trouble and got to open all the windows when I empty the skimmer cup. But ozone, it was never quite as bad. Like you could smell it, but it wasn't as potent. So that's the biggest thing I'd say I've noticed between the two. Aaron, I put a rock in my sump to create the toilet bowl spin flow. There you go. See? Just direct something, get a little spiral going on.
That works.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I don't know. I'm still on the fence of which one's better, UV or ozone, but they both do the job for clarity, which is my main purpose. And then obviously LG or dinos and stuff, UV is probably slightly better, but I mean, anything that comes in the skimmer with it's probably going to get the beat down from the ozone as well. So
yeah, I mean, I would say for the average reefer that doesn't want to do a whole lot of research and doesn't necessarily have an aquarium controller to measure ORP.
Yep.
UV is just easier, less worry, less dangerous.
Yep. With ozone, I also had a higher ORP. It is lower with UV. That's another thing I've noticed. So it doesn't get it quite as high as ozone did for those few hours a night that I used to run it.
Sure.
Yep. Okay, one question. There's a couple questions that came up earlier in the chat. We're asking about what are the best test kits for a reef tank. What are you guys using right now? Or what were you using, Robert? What are you using, Adam?
Adam, you go first. I got mine.
All right.
Never changes.
Yeah. So as far as what I actually am testing for currently, it's mainly just elk. That's the Hannah Checker, the DKH version. Super easy. It's just hard to use anything else at this point. Red Sea's not bad, but as far as like calcium, magnesium, when I do have to test those, Red Sea, phosphate checker for with Hannah. Let's see, copper checker when I have to quarantine, but it's been a long time since I've added my last fish, so that one's got some dust on it. And then I use my Apex for like temperature, pH, that kind of thing.
Yeah, nice. All right, Robert, what about you? What's your go-tos for test kits?
Test kits. Well, as some of you might see behind me, I use Hannah Instruments phosphate checker. I use the Hannah alkalinity checker. I have this wonderful Hannah combo pen. It's called the combo pen. It's pH, TDS, and temperature. I love that thing because you can take it, for pH, it'll measure both fresh and salt. You get your TDS on your RO water because it's like the low range TDS. And then I can double check temperature. It's got a replaceable pH electrode too. So, every year just swap that out, and it's waterproof. So things last me forever, man. I had one that worked just fine, replaced the pH probe, I want to say 3 times over 5 years. But after 5 years, like the thing was still giving me the reading, still trucking along, still accurate. So those are the 3 Hannah ones I use. And then I use their salinity pen too, the
Yep.
conductivity salinity pen. I'll use that one too, but I always have a analog refractometer as well. Generally, like when I'm mixing and checking constantly, I'll have the analog refractometer. And then, you know, when I want to check like my tank and match it with the water before water change and everything, I'll use both, but I'll have the digital tester right there next to the analog one and just sort of ensure that they're within, 1 ppt of each other.
Yeah. Nice.
Other kits, calcium, I'll use Salifert. Red Sea I've used quite a bit too, but I think like if I'm just going to buy a calcium test kit, I go automatically to Salifert. It's the one that I know, I learned how to use, and I trust it. Magnesium, I've always just used Salifert as well, but I rarely ever check that. I only check that maybe once every other month, because you can kind of, once you check it once, you can kind of gauge with how much alk and calcium consumption you're getting, like how fast that's going to drop. I mean, it's not going to be always on point, but you'll know, like, okay, I'm consuming, say, 0.25 DKH every couple of days. That consumption is going to kind of equal out to a certain amount of magnesium, and you get the hang of your tank. In other words, you get the feel for it. I kind of just rely on my gut for that one for the most part, which is good. It's magnesium, and it's safe to, I guess, sort of approach it like that, as long as you're not dumping a bunch of it in or trying to constantly dose it daily. Plus, for a lot of times I'm using ESV, which they put mag in that. So generally speaking, I'm not having to worry too much about it, because there's just enough mag in there to keep it sort of constant.
Yeah.
That's like the main stuff. I don't ever test nitrate or nitrites or ammonia. I never watch a cycle. Like, I'll never test during a cycle, except for, say, this is what I tell people, is like, give it 4 weeks every single time. From the day I fill water and put bacteria in it, I'll usually do the pinch of fish food method, some live bacteria, and then I forget it even exists for 4 weeks. And I'll test for nitrate at the end. Every single time I'm going to have some level of nitrate, it's usually a manageable level, like never more than 20 ppm or anything. And I'll just do a big water change, and I start stocking,
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. We've got some tests going on at BRS with cycling tanks, and we've got 6 test tanks, 2 of each method just for redundancy. So we've got 2 tanks that are basically just like throw the clownfish in and see what happens. And seems cruel, but at the same time, like, let's find some data behind this, and instead of just like regurgitating everything that we've heard on forums, let's find out what actually happens. And then another one was complete fishless cycle, and the third one was bottle of bacteria fish right away. And really surprised that the one that just got fish had almost identical ammonia spike to the one that just got bacteria in fish, and it was almost no ammonia spike using the Senai to really monitor ammonia. So yeah, I'm with you, Robert. It's one of those things, like, I'm not paying attention to ammonia and nitrites very much. Like, if you think about your tank volume and a single fish, the chances that your one fish is going to produce so much ammonia that it's going to be able to harm itself is probably pretty slim, unless you're talking about a very small 10-gallon tank. But if you're setting up a 75 or 100 or larger tank, the chances of a pair of clownfish causing an issue is almost zero.
Yeah.
Especially if you dump in a bunch of bottle bacteria.
Yeah, and it's cheap insurance too.
Yeah.
Yep.
I find helping people in the group, helping new hobbyists for so long, people really get wrapped up in that thing, in that cycle. We have so much science about it. It's the nitrogen cycle. Like, kids learn about it. And people get all excited about their reef tank and their cycling. They just want fish so bad. And I find every time somebody tells me that, oh, I tested my ammonia 2 days ago, should I test again? Should I add more ammonia? Should I wait? Every single time it seems like those folks that are trying to rush it, or just be in tune with it, or see it happen, whatever the reasoning is, they end up with definitely more issues than the guy that just adds the bacteria, adds the fish food, and waits at least 4 or 6 weeks to do anything to the tank. It just
it's more confusing too.
Yeah, like you get lost in it, and you can forget, like, wait, did my nitrite spike at all? I have nitrates, but I never had any nitrites. It's like, well, maybe you missed it. It happens, like, ammonia, nitrite.
Quick,
it happens quick, So the chances of you like getting your test at a point where you're gonna have zeros on both sides and a nitrite spike is rare. Like, you're gonna have a little of this, a lot of that, and a little of this as it goes through its thing. It's all done. It's always nitrate. It's always going to be nitrate,
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we're going to learn a lot about that this year.
We will. If you are trying to like super cycle it fast and you're dosing ammonia, then I would say you want to test for it. But if you're just doing the fish food method, I don't think it really overly matters.
Okay. Are you great?
Because if you dose too much ammonia, you can actually stall out the cycle, make it take longer. Like if you dose more than 2 ppm, that you're likely going to stall it out. Where if it's, you keep in that kind of 1.5 range, it's going to be more beneficial to build it up quicker. So that's the only time I'd really worry about it, is if you are purposely dosing ammonium chloride or something to feed the bacteria and like try and build up an army quick.
Dr. Tim has a really good MACNA talk regarding that, and there are certain types of bacteria, that'll take nitrites and turn them into nitrates, and a different type of bacteria that'll take ammonia and turn it into nitrites. So if you've got sky high nitrites, then a water change might actually be the key, because everybody talks about, like, oh, my cycle stalled out. Well, that just means that your nitrites are so high that the bacteria can't reproduce fast enough to take the ammonia and then process it into nitrites. So, going back to what we were saying earlier, like it's almost, there's almost so much information on the subject that you can make it so confusing for a beginner that
for sure.
For the most part, I have a hard time adding ammonia to a tank deliberately and recommending that to a new person. Just because it is so confusing, and there's so many more ways to screw it up.
I find most new people are impatient and don't wait for a full cycle, so I just tell everyone to go with bottle bacteria, because it's just a nice safety net.
The only reason I think this fishless cycle method is attractive is the do it in 7 to 10 days or whatever. You can do it quick. I think the arguments of like, oh, we're not harming fish, it's like we weren't harming fish prior. Like, you can do it with fish food and live bacteria. Like Adam said, the chances of you you have to put a big fish in a little tank to get that ammonia.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
So yeah, I think some of those arguments are just not viable. And I think the only reason, and we just have to accept that fact, to do some these, watch it closely and dose ammonium chloride is just to really do it fast. There's nothing wrong with that, and you can do it. But just you have to kind of expect what you're going to get from it.
More advanced method.
Yeah, more advanced method, and the possibility of having a stall, or I guess just having to pay closer attention to the whole process. More work is what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah, for sure. Quick question on this one. I don't know if you guys have dealt with any really big tanks, but Hernando's asking, for large aquariums, 500 gallons plus, would it be better to do large power heads or a Carlson surge device?
I'm not familiar with the Carlson surge device.
I believe that's where they fill like a big dump bucket and it goes and drops a bunch at once. Pretty sure that's a Carlson surge.
It creates a surge, I think, is probably for the application. Yeah, it's hard. I've never kept a huge tank like that. The biggest I've ever kept is a 200 gallon. It was a freshwater tank. Yeah, it's hard to say. I can say this: pump technology these days is killer. Is way better than what I had 15 years ago when we started.
For sure.
I mean, it's even better today than 7 years ago, 5 years ago. I mean, we got app control pumps, we've got low profile pumps, you have gyre pumps, you have the Vortec, which is killer. So yeah, and the fact that they can all work together, like, I don't think you need a surge. Like, I just don't think that there's a place for surges anymore. You've got giant buckets of water mounted above your tank with heavy mechanics. Now, probably more energy efficient, but your pumps can talk to each other. So 500 gallons, let's say 4 MP60s on one side, 100% all at the same time, you have a surge, right?
Yeah.
To an extent. And then you cut it, that water bounces back, and you can get these tidal motions and natural surges by simply programming the pumps effectively. So yeah, I mean, that would be my logic to it all, is like, if you use the right high-end pumps, you can get a very, similar approach to it. I think the benefit with Surge is it's cool. It's freaking awesome.
Yeah.
You get you get the cool like wave oxygen bubble effect that you have going into it. I guess if you did like a dump bucket type Surge.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's hard to say what's better. But I would think the pump technology would be my answer.
It's easier for most people to implement, right? Because if you have a dump bucket,
sure.
you need a big pipe going up like a story and somewhere else to do it. It's a lot more involved, especially if you're retrofitting to your house. Your pipe up to your attic with a big bucket of water. It seems a bit sketchier, so pumps is definitely simple.
I think I'd have to have a much larger tank than 500 gallons to justify setting something up like that.
There you go, Adam. So public aquarium, right? Big giant. I mean, they have surge devices. Well, in that situation, we're bigger than 500 gallons, and it's the efficiency of that makes up for any sort of benefit you can get. I mean, they'd have to buy 100 MPs to to get any sort of similar pipe flow, and then go in and maintain 100 MPs. No thanks. One single large giant surge device that needs some grease on some gears every so often is definitely a lot better than pulling 100 wet sides out every month and trying to soak them and replace them. I think it's just it's a matter of what size makes the most of it. It's what this guy is asking us. Is 500 the size?
One actually interesting point a minute ago, Port Wolf was saying, which is actually a good point. If you add a refugium to your tank when you're first cycling it, that could actually stall your cycle as well, because the Chaeto could absorb any of your ammonia source, and then it never fully properly cycles. So that's a good point.
That's something that we learned at BRS in the ULM series. I can't remember if all of the tanks or just a couple of them had a refugium, and we thought, we'll get it going right away. But we had all sorts of weird things happen during the cycle, and ultimately, I can't say definitively, but I'm pretty sure that the refugium getting started up so early was to blame.
Yeah, I know algae turf scrubbers as well. Hair algae is really good at sucking out ammonia too. So I mean, on a fish only system, great. But if you're cycling a tank, same thing. Like, hold off before you start throwing all the macroalgae on.
Yeah. Yep. People forget that the Chaeto needs and likes its nutrients, and it is very efficient at pulling it. And just like the tertiary, things will pull it out. But your tank needs that too. Your bacteria too, which is arguably more important to allow the bacteria to go.
All right, what else you guys got on the resolution list? Any other big things that you're like, I need to do this better, or I need to get this done eventually, or any other tank goals?
2 more things.
Go ahead, Adam.
So this is a resolution every year because I've never fully complete it, but spend more time enjoying my tank. I did a better job this past year than most years, but man, we put all this time and effort into these tanks, all this money, and the amount of times that I've sat down in front of the tank and just watched a fish, I could probably count on 2 hands. Like, man, I just need to enjoy the tank more, because I mean, that's what we do. That's what we, do this whole hobby for, is to have this cool thing in our house. And I'm always, researching things about the tank, but just like grab a drink and sit down in front of it.
That is very wise. I used to do that, and I've been terrible about it the last year or two, because life's crazy and busy, and I just lack free time. I have no life anymore, but I used to do that. I just go sit there, make a coffee, a cocktail, whatever, pull up a bar chair and just stare at the tank for like an hour.
Even if it's like 10 minutes, man, just like that's better than nothing, because there are some nights where I, walk by the tank, dump some food in, go back upstairs, and it's just like, why even have this in your house if you're not going to enjoy it?
It is so true. So true.
For me, it's feeding time. I mean, that is my enjoyment time. I'm a very hands-on dude. I like to do stuff. And so, feeding is an event for me. It's like defrost the food for half an hour. And then, I got all my tools, and the family's, hugged around. It's like, all right, let's see if we can, get the pistol shrimp out of his hole. And then we're over here, feeding another fish that likes to, I don't know, eat the seaweed off the clip. That is the interaction time for me. And definitely keeps my fish, large and healthy. Is how you get it, heavy in, heavy out type thing. For me, I mean, that is that. I think my version of that, Adam, would be like share it with friends more.
Sure.
So, express my passion and like a lot of people don't even know you have this amazing thing in your home. And so yeah, maybe sharing it with friends would be I don't know, something I would shoot for if I get my tank built soon enough.
Make it happen. Send me your address. We'll get you some RO line. Get her rolling.
You work for BRS, for God's sakes. Like,
oh, I know.
We can get you some RO too.
There's no excuse. So this is the first time in 20 years. So this last year and a half is the first time in 20 years I've not been within like arm's reach of a fish tank. Saltwater, specifically a saltwater tank. It's been about 15 years, but just aquarium in general, it's the first time. And that's a lie. I got a beta tank. Darn it.
Better than nothing. It's
beta
good.
Tank, yeah.
Yeah. So you'd actually defrost your frozen food, eh?
What's that?
You actually defrost your frozen food?
Oh yeah, because I like to, spot feed it and stuff. And I mix food. I'm terrible. No, I shouldn't say terrible, but I use like a multi-ingredient frozen fruit, so rods. I usually will add some sort of, liquid food in with it. Definitely, Reef Royds, Cold Frenzy, something along those lines. Reef Chili, obviously. And yeah, in order to do that effectively, and then I'll mix tank water in with it too, just to make it last longer, go further, I guess, and suck up the bulb streams and everything. What I don't do is I don't rinse it.
Yep. I never have either.
Yeah. What about you, Adam?
Yeah, just some tank water. I use LRS. I've been using their Reef Frenzy for a while now, probably for the last 3 or 4 years. I'm using their Herbivore Frenzy now. My understanding is it's the same thing, but with some, seaweed elements built in. So I've got 2 tanks, so it's just makes more sense to go that direction. But I don't mix in any coral foods or anything like that right now. I want my corals to be healthy, but I kind of wish they'd stop growing a little bit because I'm running out of room.
You're like,
How
dare they grow so fast?
But no, I need to get in there and frag because Ryan Thompson in the Facebook group was making fun of me for my my hammer smushing up against the front of the glass today.
Move your rocks and just let it get giant.
Yeah, I know. I don't want to frag it. It's just so big and beautiful.
Yeah. Well, just move it over a bit. Let's get a little more space. It'll be fine.
So I have to get going on this new build so that I can make my aquascape around the corals that I want to keep in the new build.
If anything, man, just carve off a piece of that Monty and give it room.
Oh man, the Monty's so good, big and beautiful too.
Yeah, but it'll grow. I mean, Monty, man.
What color Monty is it? Some of them grow like mad.
It's just a regular red one. Yeah.
Those grow way too fast. Yeah.
They grow super fast.
They're growing so cool though.
Nail down is the spiral technique. Getting them to grow in a nice, perfect cup. I've tried so many times. Like put it on the the pinnacle of a rock with like a perfect round frag and got the edges on both sides. I know there's some tricks to it. And flow.
So actually, a good chunk of it is based off how much light intensity it gets. So Monty caps, if you have lower par, longer duration, they'll more plate outwards. If you have higher par, shorter duration, they'll more spiral upwards.
Okay. Good to know, man.
One thing that I did too with my Monty was that, so I got it from a coworker, like 3 years ago or whatever it was. And he had just a bunch of small chunks. And so I glued them all to the rock near each other, but probably an inch away, and just kind of let them grow into each other. And where they grew into each other had some really cool growth patterns.
Yeah. The way that they overlap and stack on each other, except kind of protrude out in their own different ways, it looks really neat for sure.
Yeah, doing it that way almost expedited the process.
Yeah, nice.
But
still pretty cool though. There's totally got lost. One of those comments: can you make a saltwater fish live in freshwater? No. There's some fish that can be brackish, which is kind of in the middle. You can get mollies in a few fish. You can adapt them from freshwater to saltwater, but generally saltwater, freshwater.
It's
so not so much.
Hard to go both ways. It's usually it's real stressful on the fish. Mollies, you do that slow acclimation, and then you would want to keep them there. I don't know of any fish you typically find in the ocean or find as a saltwater fish, and you can go back to freshwater. It's really only mollies, what are monos and scats? I mean, those are a brackish fish. Obviously salmon and stuff, but we don't keep those. I don't know. There might be some out there, but I don't think there's anything like that.
Yeah, I know lower salinity is doable, but not straight up fresh. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like hyposalinity for the quarantine purposes is somewhat common, like 1.010, 1.011, kind of that range. But yeah, that's about
when
it.
You're really trying to make your salt bucket last a while.
Yeah, not a big fan of hyposalinity, but whatever. That's a separate conversation.
Yeah, and if you have corals and stuff, they like that 35 ppt, so best to keep it stable there.
Yep, for sure.
A few minutes ago, someone was asking about testing about potassium test kit. I think it's Salifert that I have for that one. So I have been dosing some potassium type products lately. So I actually have been testing it, trying to make sure that they stay in a nice, happy range.
That's awesome.
Yep. I see ICP every once in a while, but that's about it for me.
Yeah. That's one of the goals this year too. A couple weeks ago, I started dosing trace elements. I put them all in dosers finally, instead of me sporadically doing it. So I kind of guessed, and then some of my corals that were more yellowy are turning more greeny. So I'm like, okay, dosing too much iron. So I scaled that back in half. I'm just trying to give it a couple weeks and then I'll send it an ICP and see where things are at, and hopefully things are happy and not going too crazy.
Draw some conclusions. I think you're gonna be happy. Trace elements, I think, play a big role in a lot of the stuff that we don't talk about enough.
Yep.
Yeah, I think with this, talking about resolutions, one of my resolutions that I kind of was just thinking about with you bringing that up is implementing some sort of trace element program to my tank, because right now it's water changes, but man, I have been bad about water changes towards the end of this year with the holidays and whatnot. And my trace elements are probably depleted at this point. So mixing in some like Tropic Marin, K and A elements, and also using their part C with the BRS 2-part I'm using would be something I'd probably do for my next tank. I just have to pick up another dose, but yeah, that's definitely a good resolution for this year, is to implement trace elements properly.
Yeah.
Hey Devin, so
yes.
you, with your auto water change,
yes,
I mean, how much are you? I guess you said you hadn't sent any ICPs yet or anything, have you? With the
no, I sent him one.
How much of a difference are you seeing with auto water change and trace elements versus just like a water change? So on a weekly or bi-weekly basis, I think you're going to see a much more consistent level, because you're like constantly adding a source.
Yeah, I think so.
And some of this stuff gets depleted like super quick, very, very small trace amounts. I'm just curious about that. I will find out.
Yeah, I haven't sent in one since I did the dosing the trace elements. So I'll do that in a couple of weeks. I'm trying to give it about a month. It's been about 2 weeks now, so I'll wait about 2 more weeks and I'll send one off.
Fair.
Now, I was doing a smaller water change. I'm doing pretty small water change. I was only doing about 1.5 gallons prior on 200 gallons per day. And I just upped it to 2.5 gallons because my nutrients are a little high. So I'm trying to lower those. So I upped it to 10,000 mils a day.
Isn't that beautiful? Man? Just a few buttons and it's like, I have lowered nitrates in 7 days.
It's great.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Ryan Thompson wants to know, what is everyone's dream tank?
Oh, man. So... Ryan Batchelor, BRS Ryan, has a video somewhere on the BRS YouTube about your dream tank becoming a nightmare if it's too big for the amount of time that you have to allot to it.
That was his talk at Magna, I think.
Okay, yeah. I knew it was somewhere on there. So for me, like probably an Innovative Marine, like 100-gallon is where I max out. Anything bigger than that, and it's like kind of quantity over quality. I have the time to maintain a roughly 100-gallon tank, and that's where I'm happy.
Fair enough. What about you, Robert? What would be your dream tank?
Okay, so this changes quite a bit for me.
Yep.
But right now, I'm stuck on this like multi-tank or multi-display. So we talked about it when I first was talking about building tanks out after I moved. I want 3 displays, all in a connected sub. Nice, beautiful stand. There's a couple tanks out there actually that inspired me that are like this, and it allows you to set up particular biotopes except you're still only maintaining one tank because it's all centralized on a sump. But you can accommodate your rock work, the stocking levels, the fish to particular situations. Because, you know, as I've learned over the years, a mixed reef is like the hardest thing you can do for yourself. But the reason we do it is because we want everything. We want like all this cool stuff. Like it's hard to turn down a frog spawn. It's hard to turn down, you know, a mandarin dragonette. And so, yeah, I think this multi-display situation will allow me to like get everything I want and be selfish, while not, you know, irresponsibly ending up with a tank that's just, what am I going to do now? You know, the LPS are stinging the SPS, the SPS are growing out the top. You know, I can't, you know, fish are fighting, and I can't add any other cool fish to the situation, and you end up with like 3 fish, and I just have to live with 3 fish for, you know, 5+ years or however long the tank is. So yeah, I think that would be it. Yep. Size wise, it would be pretty big. You know, I think I'd want like a 100-gallon sump situation, something big to where I'm not having to worry about water volume, things like that. Maybe like one of them big like 4x4 plastic vats would be cool. Yeah. Hidden away. You know, just having a fish room in general would definitely be part of this. Any version thereof a fish room, so I could, you know, have other things in there too would be nice. Nice. And then, you know, maybe I guess I would want one long one, so like tanks and stuff. So maybe a good like 6-foot tank in the middle. So let's call it a 180 or 200, 220. Call it 220 in the middle. And then the other two would just be small, like 60 cubes. And that's where you're doing like your, you know, your soft corals, maybe your seahorses, your dragonettes. These smaller tanks are easier to feed these finicky fish. You know, you're not going to have as much competition for them. And it would be a very cool look, you know, like what if we like, I mean, they don't have to be next to each other. So we have like the 6-foot tank on one wall, and then maybe over here in the corner next to the, you know, the bookshelf is your 60 cube. And then maybe your kid's room, it's got the other cube, you know, something along those lines. So this obviously involves building a dream home around a fish tank.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, pretty awesome. I'd love to have a fish room. It's just the layout of my current house just doesn't allow for it without knocking down some walls. And hopefully the fiance isn't listening, because I think she'd probably kill me if I'd started knocking walls down. But
I'm so sorry. You don't.
Yeah. We don't need that closet. Thank you.
I know. Yeah. Every time I walk by, we've got a couple of closets that I'm like, But
how did this work out?
Yeah. Practicality wise, like what I have right now is perfect. I love my 6-foot water box. Like it's an amazing tank. It's, you know, everything's in there. If it was like money is no object, I would add another foot to it maybe. So about 3-foot depth, and probably like double or triple the length. So have like a 12 to 20 foot, whatever wall I was putting in, like have it like the whole strip of the side of it would be really cool. Like super duper long tank. I love that, because then you got all that swimming space, you know, 3.5 feet front to back. So you got tons of depth that way. I think it'd be really cool.
Yeah. What's Ryan's doing with this, you know, shallow square or rectangular tank? It was it's David Saxby.
He is a cool tank
with a giant canyon in the middle. It's just, oh my God, it's gorgeous. I remember the first time I saw that, you know, it was in a book, and then I'm like, whoa, what's this? Go Google it, you know, and like watch videos for hours on it. And man, that's sure inspirational. That big giant canyon type aquascape that there's like depth to it. You can't see the end, you know, like there isn't a black wall. That's some cool stuff. I think, I don't know that. Yeah, it would be hard to avoid something like that, but in light of what Adam had said, I'm not gonna be able to. Yeah.
Have you seen Jimmy Pop Coulson's new tank?
His new one? No, I've seen his.
Oh, I'm gonna bribe him on a live stream soon. It is.
Good.
If you watch the show Tanked, it was one of the ones that was in like an arcade, and he bought the tank when they were taking it out. It's 20-foot long, like racetrack tank, and it spans like multiple rooms of his house, and you had to like do an add-on for the guest house. It's like absolutely amazing. But it's like, you know, here's this, you know, 4-foot by like 8-foot chunk, and like this room of my house, and part of the tank's in another room, and it's like crazy.
Last time I looked at him, it was still being built. Is it all like, does it have water and everything now? Or?
Oh yeah, there's water, fish. I'll bribe him on and do a live stream soon. But
yeah, we did that one interview. I'm spacing on the gentleman's name, but on the BRS TV YouTube channel up here in Minnesota. I think it's a 2,000-gallon tank. Like, man, that thing is just a beast. And like, if we're talking money is no object, and I can devote my entire day to taking care of this tank, like,
Yep.
maybe something like that. But because it's super long, which is cool because you know you can keep all sorts of different large tanks. But man, at a certain point like that, it just turns into a full-time job.
Yeah. It's so true.
Unless you're paying somebody.
This is true. It's another option.
Yep.
If it's dream tank, no object, it could be cool.
Yeah.
Another one I thought was kind of cool was I think it was ChemiPure. What their magazine they had at one of the shows. I snagged one, and it was like an entranceway going in. It was like a big circle pond lagoon, and it was like rocks and like tropical fish in it. So it was like a lagoon literally like in the entrance of your house, and there's like a big light over top. But I'm like, that'd be cool if that was like a all-out reef. Like you just have this big reef, you know, cut out in the middle of your floor. Like, and if you had some like big fancy house by the beach.
Julian's got a cool thing going on with that little outdoor lagoon in his walkway.
Yeah.
I've definitely had lots of long thoughts about an outdoor saltwater pond, you know, or an outdoor saltwater tank. I think what he's doing is just absolutely awesome. He's got clams in there, you
That's
know,
cool.
big mangrove, like so many cool things you could do with that and just make it look awesome. And then you dig a big pit and you have like an outdoor viewing area where you can go down just like you're at, you know, the public aquarium or SeaWorld or something, viewing pane on the side.
It'd be really cool.
Yeah.
So much to do.
Oh, just
Yeah,
to give a guy a shout out, Adam. 2,000 gallon dream tank. We got a video. His name's Sean.
Sean, that's right. Yep.
Instagram handle Minnesota_coral_reef.
Nice.
Check it out.
He had a pretty awesome tank.
Yeah, man. Oh yeah. It's worth a look, man. It's just a beautiful tank. So any listeners, you haven't seen it, go check it out. Just 2,000 gallon bulk reef supply. Search on YouTube, you'll find it.
Beautiful. Well, that's a good chunk of the dream. All right, boys, won't keep you too late, but that was a good chat today.
Yeah, absolutely. We got off on a few tangents, but I think overall we had some good resolutions, and I don't know, maybe we'll have to do this come 2022 and play this back and see
what
if
we've
we
done.
actually start more.
Robert, your tank better be going by then.
Hopefully Robert won't be waiting on RO tubing still in 2022.
Yeah, no.
We'll get you some, don't worry.
So every time I talk with my reef tank buddies, like I get the guilt and the fire like lit in my pants. So like we'll see here, man. We'll I'm sure I'm gonna make some moves this week. And hopefully by the next time we talk, I got 4 weeks first Wednesday of February.
Yep.
And so my birthday is Valentine's Day, so I'll be right before my birthday. And let's set a goal, man. I'm gonna give it to myself. So we need water in the tank before Valentine's Day.
By next month, 1 month from now, you're coming back on, and we want an update of your tank with water.
I said I can get the salt mix in my door, which whatever. I'll go buy. I'll use Instant Ocean Reef crystals to fill if I have to. I don't care.
I used it for years. Does the job.
No excuses.
Okay. No excuses. We'll get you some RO line, and by next we got 1 month from now.
All right.
All right, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, hit that like button. If you're new, make sure to subscribe. Thank you, boys, for coming on. Always appreciate it. And
Absolutely.
catch you guys on the next live stream. Thanks, guys.
Peace.